Welcome back to our channel, where we bring you the most haunted places on Earth. Today, we will venture to the small town of Villisca, Iowa, where we will investigate one of America's most brutal unsolved mysteries, the massacre at the Villisca Axe Murder House. Also, turn on notifications so you don't miss out on any of our live streams or premieres. So with all that being said, let's get right into the video. Now, before we begin, make sure to subscribe for more paranormal videos and new episodes every week. This is the legend that drew me to this case. They met in the basement, which was divided into rooms, each used for different activities. On the floor of the social hall, two men were sprawled beside an overturned table. One was Josiah Body, a neighbor and close friend of the Moore family. The other was a stranger. In the kitchen, a single chair was knocked over. On the floor lay a meat cleaver. Nearby, splattered with blood, was an axe. The bedrooms upstairs were the most disturbing. On the video monitor, I saw something move in the corner of my eye. When I turned to look, nothing was there. It came from behind the bedroom door, soft as breath. "He's coming," it whispered. The room chilled and my flashlight dimmed for a second, then came back on. I grabbed it and scanned the hallway again. The light hit something, but when I checked the photos on my phone, in every hallway shot, he's there just standing watching. Do you think the Villisca Axe Murder haunts his victim's home? Let us know your thoughts. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe so you won't miss any of our uploads. We would also like to take a moment to say a special thank you to our supporters whose names you can see on screen right now. We'll see you next time on Most Haunted Places. A man standing at the far end, facing me. He was tall, dressed in clothes too old for today. Suspenders, a long-sleeved shirt, pants caked in something dark. His face was hidden in shadow. I blinked. He was gone. Then came the footsteps, creaking in the hallway outside the room, slow and deliberate, like someone walking the length of the hallway and back again. Step, step, pause. Then silence. The Moore children, Herman 11, Catherine 8, Mary 6, and little Boyd 2, were found lying side by side in their beds, their heads crushed by blows from the axe, like something heavy being pulled across the wooden floor. It stopped just outside the room. I sat frozen on the bed for what felt like hours. Then at 10:16 p.m., the attic door creaked open. I hadn't touched it. I slowly climbed the narrow stairs, flashlight in hand. The attic was colder than the rest of the house, and in the middle of the floor lay a single axe, no dust around it, like it had been placed there just moments before. Next to it, written into the grime-covered window pane, were 3 words: "Why did you come?" I turned to leave, but the attic door slammed shut behind me. I was locked in. Footsteps echoed up the stairs, one at a time, slow, heavy, deliberate. I pressed myself against the far wall, flashlight flickering. Then he appeared standing just inside the doorway. I couldn't see his face, only the axe in his hand. He stepped forward, and suddenly, nothing. Their parents were in the master bedroom, their bodies hacked to pieces. George was kneeling beside his bed as if praying. May lay on her side, her arm flung across her face. There were no signs of rape, robbery, or forced entry. Every window was closed, and the screens were intact. The killer had apparently used a key to gain entry. The motive, identity, and whereabouts of the killer remains unknown, including a social hall and a place for the local Christian Endeavor Society to meet. Over the years, thousands of theories emerged about who committed the crime. Decades passed. The house changed hands. Families lived there, raised children. Then in the early 1990s, the Axe Murder House was purchased by real estate developer Richard E. Miller, who renovated the home and turned it into a museum. An axeman, a drifter, a member of a traveling carnival, even a former sheriff. Suspects were brought in for questioning. Evidence was gathered, but the case went nowhere. After a year, investigators grew tired of chasing shadows, and the case went cold. Around 7:30 p.m., the group began to go home. As the last guest departed, the Moore family retired to bed. It wasn't. The moment I walked in, I felt it. A pressure in the air, like the walls were holding their breath. The floors creaked beneath me, even when I stood still. Upstairs, The children's bedroom remained almost exactly as it had in 1912. Small beds, a cracked porcelain doll on the floor, and a cold stillness that didn't match the summer evening outside. It was unusual for them to sleep with their doors open, but that night they did. In the morning, their friends noticed that the front door hung open, which was also unusual. When they called out and received no answer, they walked inside. What they found would haunt the town of Villisca forever. They say that if you listen closely at night, past the hum of crickets and rustling leaves, you can hear the floorboards creak under the weight of a man walking back and forth along the hallway. Step, step, pause. It's subtle, but if you're listening intently, you'll hear it. It is said that if you are quiet enough at night inside the Villisca Axe Murder House, you will hear him. The man in the hallway. I'm not easily freaked out, but I am a skeptic. It was a typical modest home. The white paint was chipping. The porch needed repairs, but it was solid and welcoming. Inside, the walls were decorated with family photos. A baby's cradle sat beside the dining room table. The living room sofa was covered with quilts. Life seemed peaceful. In fact, neighbors described the Moores as an exemplary family, always neat and tidy. Their children were model kids who rarely played outside. I didn't believe it until I went to Villisca myself and stayed overnight in the very house where the alleged haunting occurs. On June 10th, 1912, George and May Moore moved into the house at 515 East Main Street in Villisca with their 4 children. Then on June, George and May hosted friends for a church social. The home was pristine, except for the sign of a violent struggle. A massive search ensued, but the only clue was the killer's apparent escape route, a horse trail leading away from town. But the house remained. When I visited, the house sat quietly, tucked on a residential street, white paint, wooden porch, drawn curtains. It looked harmless. After setting up my camera equipment, I began to notice things. At first, small, subtle things. Then I heard the voice. I backed into the bedroom and shut the door, pushing a chair under the handle. Then came a loud, dragging sound. I woke up the next morning on the attic floor, alone. The door stood wide open. My gear was untouched. So now it's your turn.